Hey guys, hope everyone's doing really well today or tonight. I wanted to make a quick video on good versus bad debt for investing. Now, for a lot of people, especially in the personal finance niche, this is super important. This isn't something that your average person would maybe know really well. I guess the story is for a lot of people that they hear debt and they instantly think bad, but ultimately, there are good kinds of debt and bad kinds of debt. And we'll get into the reasons why exactly that is, and I guess what makes some debt good and some debt bad. So, yeah. But yeah, to just start off, there is not all debt is bad. Um, and there are reasons that you may want to get into debt, which we'll cover in a second. But yeah, just as an initial thing, that's exactly what this video is on. It's not about whether or not you should get into debt. It's just solely good versus bad debt. Okay. So the first thing here is there a difference with debt? And while yeah, I mean simply yes, right? Now, it does cost you good debt. It does cost you to obviously have debt, even good debt. But look, the idea behind good debt is that it's used to grow your wealth or access new opportunities that you wouldn't be able to without being in debt or getting leverage, right? Now, good debt could be an example of that. Could be getting a mortgage. It could be taking out a loan to start a business. Margin loans for the stock market if you're a little bit more risky, which essentially means you're taking out money from the bank to invest into the stock market, into specific, you know, hopefully like higher risk, high reward plays. Another, example here could be, potentially investing in overseas real estate and getting a citizenship. For example, like Turkey, I know they offer a $400,000 USD citizenship when you purchase real estate there. So, taking out debt to purchase real estate, getting a citizenship, and then giving you access to new opportunities in the Turkish market. Something like that could be an idea, through using debt, which, I mean, these are all great things, right? You're using debt to grow wealth. Now, the difference is with bad debt, it doesn't provide a clear ROI or you're investing in depreciating assets. So, as much as people love to say, oh, a car is, it's really nice and I'm going to feel good and, it can get me to work and back, that's great. But ultimately, as soon as you leave the parking lot, you're losing money on that. You're also going to have to pay out a lot of money regularly for gas, maintenance, potentially any registration fees or any stamp duty fees on purchasing a new vehicle. So there's lots of different ifs and buts around purchasing assets that ultimately actually could end up taking more money out of your pocket than it brings in, which is obviously not great. Now, sometimes there are, you might take out debt for another form of ROI or return that isn't monetary or is it money related. Those situations are a little bit more, I guess, personal. Depends on who you are and what you're doing. But ultimately, we can just separate, good debt and bad debt as one brings in money and one takes away money. Simply, right? But sometimes, again, like I mentioned, you may take on a bad debt to get a different type of benefit or opportunity that you couldn't get otherwise. Now, this is speaking generally, as there are, some areas where they cross. Real estate's a easy one where, you might purchase your own home. Arguably, you're saving on rents. Arguably, you're also investing into an asset that grows over time. But, also, a home will cost you each month to keep it. It's not bringing in any monthly income for you, so you're funding that essentially, and also things like repairs and furniture and all these other things are at your own cost, right? Shopping, purchasing new clothes to feel good, purchasing a suit for work, etc. There are some overlaps where you might need to do something that doesn't really bring you a financial ROI, but again, it might bring an ROI in other areas of your life, right? And those are scenes, like those ones I just mentioned, investing in yourself. It is trickier to measure. It's not as clear cut. But yeah, generally speaking, if it doesn't bring in money or if you can't see how it's bringing in money and not just envisioning, but it actually is, then maybe you could class that as good debt, even though it's maybe taking a little bit out of your pocket each month. So yeah, that's the difference with debt. Now, How do you best manage your debt? Now, I think as a first point of call, right, audit your current situation and understand whether you do have good debt or bad debt, right? A lot of people, if you have a car loan, if you have a home loan that's not bringing in any money, if you potentially have credit card loans, or sorry, credit cards, I generally say that's bad debt, right? Now, if you have debt in the stock market, if you have debt in investment properties, maybe again you've taken out debt to invest in overseas markets, that might be good. Now, how can you adjust that? All right, where can you adjust that? These are questions to ask. Where can you cut back? Where can you sell assets? Where can you grow assets? Using your your good debt, right, in investment properties, taking out equity and putting that back into another property using further good debt. Where can you adjust your ratio between good and bad debt, right? You may feel going cold turkey for a period as well can help rebalancing your spending. I did this when I was younger. I actually did hear from my brother at one stage that I wouldn't even splurge on a $1 frozen Coke, which was a little bit extreme looking back at it. But being able to cut down your spending so that you are really focused and your one goal is just to increase your income, increase your savings, and invest. I mean, that might work really well for you. Again, I previously did it, and I'm in a much better spot, I'd say, than your average person of my age, right? Now, if you can avoid investing and taking out new debts, good or bad, or ideally good, but until you've paid off or sold any bad debts, I think that's going to be really important. Now, I kind of went through this in a previous video, but essentially, whenever you make money on an investment, you're going to make, let's just say, $10, right? But you will be taxed a certain portion of that $10. Let's just say 20%, 30%. That's going to be a couple dollars taken back, right? And then you get your net return, and that's some money for you. Now, with bad debt or just debt in general, you end up paying down the principal, which means less interest is accrued, and there's no tax implications on that. And with an investment loan, you actually do get some tax benefits for that. So, you not only do you not is it not taking money away from you, it could potentially give you a little bit more money by paying off debt. When you invest, if you do make money and you invest right, you're always paying back tax. You're essentially in a worse off spot if you were to focus on increasing your income or increasing your investments versus paying off debt, because debt is an easy one. It's also guaranteed, which the stock market could average out 8%. You could have a really good year, you could have a really bad year. Your debt, whether you like it or not, will is coming out each month. So consider that as well. Now, if your appetite allows it, I think start leveraging good debt, right? If you're also personally a fan of investment properties, or using leverage to build wealth, I think could be really interesting. That's personally where I've kind of delved into more recently. Um, it's there's lots of benefits to it. There are also risks, obviously, but it's been really great. I've been able to take out equity. I've been able to just really supercharge the wealth growth process, which has been awesome. And I wasn't able to do that so easily in something like the stock market or other assets. So yeah. Now, when it comes to excuse me, pardon me. When it comes to keeping your debt to income ratio healthy, what I mean by that is, and this is kind of done for you in a way in places like Australia, but the bank will look at what you can afford and then give you debt based on what you can afford. They're not going to give you $1 million worth of debt if you're earning $10,000 a year, right? So that's kind of done for you, but just generally speaking, if you can't, if you personally feel like even if the bank says you can afford it, if you personally feel like it's a little bit too much for you, then just allow for that, and only go in with something that you feel comfortable with. Another point here is having those protections in place. This could be something as simple as diversifying, right? Diversifying into different asset classes, different types of real estate, but also income protection. Having your what do you call it? Having a will. If you do end up passing away, having these things in place to protect you if something terrible were to happen. But again, something simple like diversifying, not having all your eggs in one basket, could be a protection of sorts. So definitely look into that. Debt is obviously an obligation to pay money back, and if you're not able to pay money back, you're kind of stuffed. So make sure you have protections in place. Now, a couple tips and strategies for you guys here. I think good debt is fantastic for some people. I personally do have a few mortgages and credit cards. I've refinanced a few times. It's been really great. Some people just do not like they just can't handle debt, and that's also totally fine, right? But we're speaking to people who are open to debt. They are open to good and bad debt, and kind of how we can navigate that better. So hopefully you are open to debt, and you know how to leverage it right. And that really means just taking over and really honing in on good debt, right? Speaking to a financial planner or putting a plan together yourself to help manage debt will be really important as well. Obviously, a financial planner or expert will know this back to front better than we probably could, and also potentially put together a plan where they've seen protects you, it gives you good amount of returns, and it fits within what you yourself are wanting as well. Potentially consolidate any bad debt or use other strategies like balance transfers with credit cards if required. When you consolidate bad debt, it might mean potentially closing down some accounts. It might mean combining or refinancing different types of loans with different banks. Just putting your debt in one place potentially could be really interesting, or just simplify things for you. Balance transfers as well. That's essentially when you open up a new credit card and you transfer from your current account into a new account, and you essentially get 18 to 24 months worth of interest-free periods, which is cool. There may be fees involved with that, etc. But if done right, it could be quite cost-effective compared to just doing nothing, right? Having systems, to help address your debt, for example, automatic payments, blocking your spending cards could be also really good. This is again, if you're someone who's not very disciplined when it comes to personal finance. I think it's something that everyone should invest in further and kind of grow and do better in, just generally speaking. But if you've tried a few times and it's just really difficult, put things on technology to stop you, make it really difficult to actually go and go nuts and just spend up and not reduce your debt, your bad debt. Having using your different apps and different systems in technology can really help things out in this case. But ultimately, I think if you can kind of invest in your own education, invest in the mindset, that's going to give you the greatest and easiest journey when it comes to reducing your bad debt. Now, last point here, right? Keep in mind that many successful people have used debt to their advantage. I think I don't have the number exactly in my head. Excuse me, but there is a significant amount of millionaires across the world that have used real estate to build their wealth. There will continue to be millionaires and potentially billionaires that use real estate to grow their wealth. It's just seeing something that not only preserves capital but also it just grows really well in most markets in the world. It's I mean, again, debt is something that has been used by many people. They're not afraid of it. They understand it and they understand how to manage it. They have the protections in place. They There's a reason why it's part of their strategy, right? So that's not to say you have to do it, but to ignore it totally and say it's just really dumb when lots of people have built massive amounts of wealth using debt is a little bit crazy. So yeah, take from that what you will. But yeah, hopefully you guys now understand the difference between good and bad debt, and yeah, you can put steps in place to change that. So if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe down below. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. But otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.